Organizational design is the administration and execution of an organization strategic plan. This means that the organization strategy determines the optimal organizational design. In addition, it also means that there aren't really any organizational design best practices. Organizational design is more about creating the best fit between the strategic choices of the organization and the organizational setting. This is represented in the figure below. Organizational design is determined by the strategic direction of the company, aka the vision, mission, and goals of the company. These lead to strategies that the company competes on, which are enabled through the organizational design.
The 5 organizational design principles. One of the most difficult things in organizational design is about what we are designing. The obvious answer would be the organization. However, what exactly is it that we are designing about the organization? This is where the 5 organizational design principles come in. The first one, specialization principle. This principle states that boundaries should exist to encourage the development of specialist skill. The best there is if any specialist cultures, which are entities that have to be different from the rest of organization, have sufficient protection from the influence of the dominant culture. The second one is the coordination principle. This principle states that activities that are done should be coordinated in a single unit. This unit can be a business unit, business function, horizontally coordinating, overlay unit, sub-businesses, co-resource unit, shared service unit, project unit, or parent unit. The third one is knowledge and competence principle. This principle states that responsibility should be allocated to the person or team best fits to do them. This means that tasks are retained by higher level based on their knowledge and competitive advantage. The fourth one is control and commitment principle. This principle is about having effective control on the hand while maintaining engagement and commitment on the other hand. This is always a balance. The fifth one is innovation and adaptation principle. This principle states that organizational structure should be sufficiently flexible to adapt an ever-changing world. These 5 principles are affected by different factors in the internal and external environment of the organization. Earlier, we spoke about strategy.
5 factors affecting organizational design. There are 5 factors that greatly impact organizational design. These factors are: first, strategy. Strategy dictates the strategic priorities of an organization. This is the most important influencing factor of organizational structure and design. Second, environment. The environment a company operates in influences its strategy but also dictates how it positions itself. In a rapidly changing environment, the organization has to design for more flexibility or adaptability, while in a stable environment, the organization can optimize for efficiency. Third, technology. Information technology is a key enabler for decision making. The state of IT impacts organizational design as well. Fourth, size and life cycle. The organizational size and life cycle also impact the organizational structure and design. Fifth, culture. The organizational culture is another key element that impacts organizational structure and design, and vice versa. Design also impacts culture. When an organization is structured and designed in a way that fits its purpose, it will result in organizational effectiveness. Organizational effectiveness includes obtaining resources that the company competes on. Efficiency, meaning there is smooth operational process and little wastage and effectiveness. Strategy. The organizational strategy is the most important starting point for the organizational structure and design. Different strategies justify a different organizational design. Environment. The environment also impacts organizational structure and design. The industry, raw materials, labor and market, international governmental, and socio-cultural influences all shape the required design to different degrees. The most important factor is environmental stability. There are two dimensions that influence environmental stability. Simple, complex dimension. This refers to the degree to which external factors influence the organization and competition. These are multiple for large companies such as AT&T and British Telecom, where all previously mentioned factors account. Stable and unstable dimension. This refers to the elements in the environment that are dynamic. Big consumer brands like McDonald's are influenced by online media. They are highly visible on platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and a single tweet or blog post can greatly damage a brand. On the other hand, public utility companies have been stable for a long time. A highly stable and similar environment justifies standardized and non-dynamic organizational process. Technology. Technology greatly influenced organizational design. We saw this through the COVID crisis, where many companies effortlessly went digital and some even closed their office. Information technology also enables organizations to become more decentralized, improve horizontal coordination through intranets, and external collaboration become possible through extranets. Size and life cycle. Size is another factor impacts organizational design. Small organizations are usually responsive, flexible, flat, organic, and entrepreneurial. Large organizations create value through efficiencies, have a global reach and brand, a more stable market, and put more emphasis on managers. This leads to different organizational design choices. As organizations grow, they go through different stages of development. Knowing which stage an organization is in helps to spot misalignment between the organizational goals and strategy and the organizational structure. In addition, it helps to identify which crisis the organization is likely to face. Culture. Every organization has its own unique culture based on their values, assumptions, beliefs, attitudes, feelings, stories, heroes, symbols, language, and habits. These cultures are best summarized in the competing values framework. This framework purposes that there are a number of competing values in an organization: flexibility versus stability, and an internal versus external focus. The values compete, meaning that it is not possible to be both stable and flexible, or both internal and external focus.
Organizational effectiveness. Once you have created an organizational design appropriate for the 5 factors we mentioned earlier, the result is an effective organization. This means an organization that is able to reach its mission and goals. Organizational effectiveness is hard to measure. However, when we understand it well, the signals in the organization can provide us with input on improvements for the organization. The approaches correspond with different phases of the production process. This is an input, process, output, or IPO model. At each step, organizational effectiveness can be measured. The first indicator of organizational effectiveness is the research-based approach. This approach looks at the input and assesses effectiveness by evaluating whether the organization effectively obtains resources necessary for high performance. The second is the internal process approach, looks at the production process and assesses effectiveness using internal health and economic efficiency. The third indicator is the goal approach. This approach assesses effectiveness by looking at how well the organization reaches its goals. Key here is to focus on operational goals, as these are easier to specify and measure. This case study about a coffee bean production company. This company occasionally struggles to supply the coffee beans required for production. This leads to supply problems, and after a company had missed its latest quarterly sales targets, an inquiry is launched. It turns out that there is a misalignment between the increasingly unstable political landscape of the coffee production countries, leading to disruption in supply and the fixed organizational structure. Further inquiry into decision-making processes shows that decisions to switch supply lines have to be approved at sea level, leading to a delay in decision-making capabilities. These hiccups are the main reason the quarterly sales targets were missed. To fix this, the organization decides to put the responsibility for parts of the supply chain management and procurement department lower in the organization. This leads to faster decision-making, hence making the organization more flexible to respond to changes in the external environment. In this case study, we saw symptoms at all three levels: the input, the process, and the output. In an ideal system, we will want to recognize these symptoms at the input or process level before they will affect the outcome. This can be done by implementing safeguards and creating an early warning system.
Chapter 11. Now we talk about the contemporary organizational design. Many of today's organizations are finding a traditional hierarchical organizational design are not appropriate for the increasingly dynamic and complex business environment. There's a team structure. One of the newer concepts in organizational design is team structure, an organizational structure in which the entire organization is made up of work groups or teams. Matrix and project structure. Other variations in organizational arrangement are based on the fact that many of today's organizations deal with work activities of different time requirement and magnitude. One of the arrangements is the matrix structure, an organizational structure that assigns specialists from different functional departments to work one or more projects. Another of this design is the project structure, an organizational structure in which employees continuously work on projects. Next is boundaryless structure. Another approach to organizational design is the boundaryless organization. An organization whose design is not defined by or limited to the horizontal, vertical, or external boundaries imposed by a predefined structure. The virtual organization operating with a small core of full-time employees while hiring outside specialists to work on projects temporarily as needed. The network organization using its own employees to do some work activities while using network of outside suppliers to provide other needed components or work process. Now, the learning structure. Many organizations have adopted the organizational philosophy of learning organization, which is an organization that has developed the capacity to continuously learn, adapt, and change.
Those type structure of contemporary designs have advantages and disadvantages. First one, team structure. Employees have more control and involvement, minimize obstacles between functional areas. It has no obvious hierarchy of command, and team performance is under pressure. The second one is matrix project structure. Design that is fluid and adaptable to environmental changes. Quicker decision making, but the difficulty of allocating people to projects and conflicting personality and task. The third one is boundaryless structure. Extremely responsive and adaptable. Makes use of ability wherever it is found, but inability to control and difficulty in communication. The last one is learning structure. Sharing of information throughout the organization, source of long-term competitive advantage, but employee reluctance to share knowledge out of concern for losing their position of authority. and there are a lot of seasoned workers that are close to retirement.
Organizing for collaborating, organizations need to be more flexible in how work gets done. Throw in the fact that innovation and the ability to bring innovations to market quickly is critical, and you can begin to appreciate how traditional top-down decision making that strictly follows the chain of command and narrowly defined functional arrangement might not be the best structural mechanisms to do this. A. Internal collaboration. When managers believe that collaboration among employees is needed for more coordinated and integrated work efforts, they can use several different structural options. The first one is cross-functional teams, using team-based structures because they found that teams are more flexible and responsive to changing events than are traditional departments or other permanent work groups. The second one is task forces, which is a temporary commit or team format to tackle a specific short-term problem affecting several departments. The third one is communities of practice. Groups of people who share a concern, a set of problems, or a passion about a topic, and who depend their knowledge and expertise in that area by interacting on an ongoing basis. B. External collaboration. When managers seek out to help solve problems, they are engaging in external collaboration. External collaborations comes in two forms. First one, open innovation. These forms opens up the search for new ideas beyond the organization's boundaries and allows innovations to easily transfer inward and outward. The second one is strategic partnership, involving collaborative relationships between two or more organizations that continue their resources and capabilities for some business purposes.
Flexible work arrangements. As organizations adapt their structural designs to fit a diverse workplace, growing competition, customer demands, and new technology, we see more of them adopting flexible working arrangements. Such arrangements not only exploit the power of technology but give organizations the flexibility to deploy employees when and where needed. Telecommuting is a work of arrangement in which employees work at home and are linked to workplace by computer. Telecommuting provides the company a way to grow without having to incur any additional fixed costs such as office buildings, equipment, or parking lots. Some managers are reluctant to have their employees become laptop hobos. Employees often express the same concerns about working remotely, especially when it comes to the isolation of not being at work. Managing the telecommuters then becomes a matter of keeping employees feeling like they're connected and engaged. Compressed work weeks, flex time, and job sharing. Compressed work week is a work week where employees work longer hours per day but fewer days per week. Flex time is a scheduling system in which employees are required to work a specific number of hours a week but are free to vary those hours within certain limits. Job sharing is the practice of having two or more people split a full-time job.
Contingent workers. Contingent workers are temporary, freelance or contract workers whose employment is contingent upon demand for their services. A. As organizations eliminate full-time jobs through downsizing and other organizational restructuring, they often rely on a contingent workforce to fill in as needed. B. One of the main issues business face with their contingent workers is especially those who are independent contractor or freelancers is classifying who actually qualifies as one. C. Another issue with contingent workers is the process for recruiting, screening, and placing. These contingent workers where their work skills and effects are needed. D. As with full-time employees, it's important that managers have a method of establishing goals, schedules, and deadlines with the contingent employees. Next is today's organizational design challenge. A. Keeping employees connected. Today's managers face the major challenge of keeping their employees connected to their organizations. since these employees are often situated in widely dispersed locations and are constantly moving. B. Managing global structural issues. Researchers have concluded that although structure of organizations around the globe are similar, cultural uniqueness is maintained because of differences in behavior within companies in different areas of the world. These differences imply that managers must be aware and respectful of the values and practice of different cultures in today's worldwide business environment.
Conclusion. There are a series of factors influencing these principles. This includes the organizational strategy, external environment, technology, organizational size, life cycle, and culture. These factors exert pressure on the different organizational design principles. The configuration of these 5 principles determines what the organization will look like. An organization high in coordination will be highly connected, but at the cost of specialization. An organization high on control and commitment will be losing out on innovation and adoption. In the end, organizational design and adaptive organizational design are about making balanced decisions that will give the organization a competitive edge and that will help it reach its objectives.